What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman, aka All Fires. Now, there were two previously confirmed Marvel films that were noticeably absent from the huge announcements and presentations from Marvel Studios over the last couple of years. First, San Diego Comic-Con comes and goes with no mention of Blade or Armor Wars, but with their focus on those huge Avengers announcements, RDJ returning, and of course just focusing on the movies next year, it sort of made sense. Even though technically Blade should have been one of those, we gave it a pass. But then the very next week in Variety, Marvel Studios publishes their unclaimed release Marvel Studios slate dates, and Armor Wars and Blade aren't listed among any of those films. They remained untitled. Then of course D23 came and went. Still no sign of Blade, no sign of Armor Wars, and rumblings that Blade itself might actually be canceled. Well, we have a huge follow-up today, literally breaking within the last hour, and from one of the most trusted industry insider sources in Daniel RPK, where apparently we're going to find out the fate of both of these films, and very soon. We're going to break down exactly what he said, what it sort of implies or leaves the door open to, what Marvel Studios may be thinking with this next move for these films if they are indeed canceled, and whether or not we're ever going to get to see Blade on the silver screen starring Mahershala Ali. We're breaking it all down, this latest bombshell update about the fate of Blade and Armor Wars. But first, if you could hit the subscribe button. We do daily Marvel content at the channel. That's all we do. So if that sort of thing's for you, hit the sub button, leave a comment down below. That automatically enters you to win our ongoing PS5 giveaway. Stick around to the end of the video. We'll get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Okay, so unlike the last couple of days, we are out of the rumor mill and back into the industry insider updates, where Daniel Rickman, you guys can follow him over on Twitter at RPK News, is probably the most trusted of Marvel sources. And at this point, not only does he have a highly accurate track record over the last 4 or 5 years, but he has huge Hollywood trades like The Hollywood Reporter and Deadline re-reporting his scoops. And this is what he had to say in his latest update earlier today for Marvel and DC. Quote, "As for Marvel, I also hear a final decision on the fate of Armor Wars and Blade is expected in the coming months," end quote. Okay, so obviously the update is news in and of itself, that in the next couple of months we're going to finally find out what is happening with these projects, or at least Marvel Studios is going to make that decision internally. And while I don't expect any sort of announcement one way or another, if they're just going forward with the projects, it'll be business as usual. If they cancel them, there's no real precedent for them to just come out and say that. More likely the case, it'll get reported by the trades, and then they'll acknowledge it somewhere down the road when Captain America Brave New World press junket's going on. They'll get asked about it and may make 1 or 2 comments like they did for Eternals 2, no longer in development. And I think a lot of us saw the writing on the wall with Blade, especially with Wesley Snipes reprising his mantle of that character here real recently with Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't think any of us thought, even with the move from a TV show to a movie, that Armor Wars was in the same boat as Blade. There certainly hasn't been as much public fanfare about the failings of Marvel Studios to get any traction with that project. And obviously Blade was said now to be on its 6th writer, but that writer was Eric Pearson, the in-house Marvel guy who's supposed to take said projects across the finish line. And so while on the surface, it's cool to know we're going to find out soon, I think the bigger story is implied here, that the fates aren't decided of these projects yet, where they were at one point confirmed by Marvel Studios, and going forward, both on the silver screen. Basically, this update just confirms the opposite in what we all thought when they weren't mentioned this summer, that their quote-unquote confirmed statuses as projects at Marvel Studios in development or on the slate have been diminished somehow, and now the fate of both projects hangs in the balance where they might actually be canceled. So for every rumor out there saying that it was over for Blade over the last 6 months, that has now moved from just a rumor to what looks like to me to be actuality, because at some point, if you can't make something work with that much allocation of resources and with the other projects that they're trying to prioritize now at Marvel Studios, I think that's the reason Blade wasn't on those release dates or in the announcements. They don't know what to do with that project. And I've said Mahershala Ali is probably the one behind this, but in a good way, that he doesn't want them to put out a less than project. He has a very clear vision for what he wants. Marvel Studios is probably having a really hard time matching it, and that's why the project hasn't come out yet. When it comes to something like Armor Wars, their conviction as far as that project was never really set in stone to begin with, considering they moved it from a TV show to a movie and still didn't tell us what the real storyline would be here, other than Tony Stark's armor falling into the hands of other people. Now, it seems like, and very obviously, they wouldn't want Tony Stark's technology to be the focus of one whole film when said Tony Stark is now back as Doctor Doom, and they've got to bite off explaining that. It actually seems to me the opposite, where they would want to spend as little time as possible, especially in a major motion picture film that's meant to facilitate the two Avengers films, focusing on Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. as that character. That seems like the opposite of what they'd want to do, and it could be for that one reason alone that Armor Wars is going to find itself right next to Blade, and what we all think now is the real possibility that it's going to be canceled. And I will also say, for those of you who watch my channel every day, you know I've said this since day one, that as long as Mahershala Ali is attached to Blade, it can happen. And that's what I was talking about in the prologue as far as what Marvel Studios may be looking to do if these projects do get canceled. It may be for Blade a timing thing. If Don Cheadle's Armor Wars gets canceled, I do not suspect we're ever going to see that project, either on Disney Plus, the silver screen, or the other. He's been playing Rhodes for quite a long time. I could see them just wrapping whatever role they wanted for him into the two Avengers films. But for Mahershala Ali's Blade, if he remains attached to the project, it could be that Marvel Studios just puts a fork in it for now and waits until they get into the Mutant Saga to start developing the Midnight Suns. But the Midnight Suns is the reason why I think, again, if Mahershala Ali stays attached, Marvel is going to see Blade through, even if it gets canceled, at least for now, temporarily, because there is a bigger picture there for a team that they are looking to build in the MCU, and there's already evidence of this, Werewolf by Night introducing several of those characters. That being said, if Mahershala Ali leaves the role, then I am very curious as to what Marvel Studios would look to do outside of rehiring Wesley Snipes, which looks like by all accounts is exactly what they might be doing for Avengers Secret Wars, which would make total sense why they would temporarily deprioritize or put a fork in Mahershala Ali's Blade if they're going to be working with another Blade in over the next 24 to 36 months in a couple of major motion pictures, I don't know, the two Avengers films. Now, all these details and logic aside, if you guys want just my honest opinion and take on this, I think both of these movies are toast. Armor Wars even more so than Blade. Mahershala Ali is a huge name. Marvel Studios has already taken a lot of public L's and some bruises with Blade. I think if they can redeem themselves, they'd want to, even if it's somewhere down the road. But with Armor Wars, I think that's dead in the water. The fact that we didn't hear about it this summer, the fact that they even changed it from a Disney Plus series to the silver screen says there probably wasn't a huge focus on it in the first place, that it was getting shuffled around. And again, this is not the time you want to be focusing on that Tony Stark imagery. Well, unless that goes a long way in explaining what's going on with Doctor Doom, but I just don't see how it is. Plus, we talk about this all the time. Limited titles can come out now at the end of the Multiverse Saga. There's not enough release dates. I bet one of them is Thor 5. I bet the other is Shang-Chi 2. And while I've been wrong in the past, it could be Doctor Strange 3. None of those are Armor Wars. But you guys let me know all your thoughts down below about any and all of this. If you agree, they're both looking pretty dead at this point. And if you think that there's any chance down the road Mahershala Ali does end up being Blade, or it'll just end up being someone else finally, maybe 5 or 10 years from now. I'm all ears as always. Quickly, let's get into the giveaway stuff before I let you go. Still giving away the PlayStation 5s. Super simple to be entered to win. Hit the sub button, leave a comment down below, because it's truly random. The more videos you comment on, the better chance you have of winning. All winners always announced at the end of videos live with my voice and the winning comment shown on screen. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. And as always, if you liked today's video, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. My name is Michael Roman. You can find me in a couple of places, Instagram and Twitter at Fires. You can also find me on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, iTunes, wherever you listen to original music under the name All Fires. And while I'd sincerely appreciate you checking my music out, thanks for checking this channel out. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.